most of the time you're going to have to put him in a straight line, which can be a bit annoying as putting him in a spot like that looks bad, but that's really what you have to do in order to use Churchill to his best abilities. Now Glaive Lord isn't seeing much action now. It will see a lot more action, once around 80, around 81 plus come, because that's when Super Ceramics, show up, and that's what Glaive Lord is meant to excel at. Ninja Alk as well as Churchill is good enough to be able to clean up regular ceramics as well as do good Moab damage at this point in time, so Glaive Lord won't really be seeing too much action. Got Arctic Wind down just to help out Glaive Lord just a bit more against the Super Ceramics, just in case some slip by, and Ice can help either slow it down or just freeze them in general. The only other change I would make for Glaive Lord in general is to maybe give its cross pathing some use. Right now, 502 is always better than 520. I can't think of a situation which 520 is better. The faster attack speed does not affect the spinning glaives like you might think it does. The spinning glaives honestly are purely visual. The damage it does is it's set. It's basically, it does damage in the aura where the spinning glaives are. It's not like BTD5 where, against the grain or with the grain did make a difference. That's not the case here, just because the three spinning glaives aren't separate projectiles. It's just an aura that, Glaive Lord does damage in, and the glaives are purely visual and help you know where that aura is. I'm not really sure what they could do to make Glaive Lord a bit more balanced in terms of cross pathing. I'm guessing that maybe, middle cross path could maybe increase the damage over time of the Shred DOT, where bottom path, allows Glaive Lord to be able to pop leads. So I guess that would be a fair trade-off. More damage with middle cross path, but you need to invest in a MIB, or less damage with bottom cross path, but you don't have to invest in a MIB. I guess that would be a fair trade-off. I guess that's what they that's what they do with other towers, but I'm not really 100% sure. But I still do think that there does need to be some cross pathing balancing with Glaive Lord. Ninja Kiwi has done a lot of cross pathing balancing recently with other towers, making cross paths actually more useful, like what they did with 205 Blue Incineration. 502 biggest one is one that comes to mind almost immediately, as they did a lot of changes with that to make the burny stuff cross path an actually useful cross path with increasing the burny stuff damage. I do like that Ninja Kiwi is doing that, so that way it's not always, oh, with this tower this cross path is always better 100% of the time. It's now, so what am I using this tower for, and which cross path will help me achieve that? So now that around 80 plus has showed up, Super Ceramics have come out, and so now with Churchill and Ninja Alk won't really be doing as well as they were before. As you can see here, Moabs are making it pretty far on their side, and I'm just leaving it for Glaive Lord to clean up. There I use Churchill 10 to pop down all the fortified BFBs into Moabs to force Glaive Lord to actually do something. Thankfully Glaive Lord was easily able to clean it up thanks to its increased sermon damage, as well as having good Moab damage with that Shred DOT. As you can see here, it's not even, most of the ceramics aren't even making it to Glaive Lord spinning glaives. They're actually just getting killed by Glaive Lord's main attack. Really, it's only like when Moabs make it that far to where the Shred DOT is actually being used, which I find is quite interesting. I guess that could be useful for, certain maps. The ZOMG defense, again, I'm going to need a lot of help with that until I get MAD up. Thankfully, 85, 87 are really the only scary ZOMG rounds, but thankfully Churchill 10 does enough damage, whereas ZOMGs aren't really too much of an issue. I can always use Rocket Storm if I ever feel like I'm not going to be able to do enough damage, which I do for 87, just because I was a bit worried they weren't be able to do enough damage for that. Honestly, at this point, I'm not even sure if Arctic Wind was even necessary, as it seems like Glaive Lord is easy being able to clean up and doesn't really need the extra slowdown. I guess maybe before the buff, it would have needed Arctic Wind to hopefully do a bit better against Super Ceramics now. But even here, being able to save up, 50 something K with just Glaive Lord really is our huge DPS on the field is kind of nutty. DTs are again a bit of an issue just because we don't have MAD up, which is unfortunate. Looking at the money, we're not gonna have it by 93. Been unfortunate, but thankfully, Churchill 10, as you saw there, does clean up DTs quite nicely. The long line of fortified mobs here again does test Glaive Lord, as the main attack, again, as you see there, is putting in some nice work. The 4 ZOMGs are a bit worrisome, but thankfully Glaive Lord at the back can clean up all the mobs and BFB insides quite nicely. I ended up dying to 93. Unfortunately, Churchill 10 was not enough to carry all DTs this round, so it's simple mob glue just to penny pinch as much as possible to be able to afford MAD still, hopefully before 95. If I don't have MAD before 95, basically this whole run is bricked and I have to restart from round 1. As again, I could buy Sabo, but then not really doing the spirit of the challenge and having Glaive Lord clean up everything in Magical. Thankfully, by the end of 94, I was able to afford MADs with it. Now 95 is pretty easy at this point. Just kind of looking at Glave Lord, DTs barely even show up on the screen, and cleanup again done easily by Glave Lord. So I'm thinking, you know, Mad plus Glave Lord is probably not a bad like 2 towers chimps combo if you're struggling with that. I still do think there are probably a lot of easier combos like, you know, Ray Doom plus Prince of Darkness. But I guess if you don't really want to do that, Mad plus Glave Lord is probably doable now, thanks to the Super Ceramic buff. Well, it probably was doable before, but it's probably made much easier at this point. And as you can see here, round 99, made easy, straight up deleted. The BAD, again, is also easy. And at the end, we had like $30,000 left over. I decided to jump into Sandbox just to test out, you know, Glave Lord a bit more, see how that buff kind of does. Decided to test this against round 163, a fortified version of round 63, and see just how well Glave Lord does. And well, surprisingly does pretty well at this point. Even though it is leaking some lives, it's really only kind of stray Bloons that it's missing. And it might be missing due to speed, but not necessarily like, you know, due to not being able to do enough damage. So being able to almost solo 163 with, you know, minimal at this case, as you lose like way over 100 lives, in this case is pretty good. Again, especially against a fortified version of 163, which means Glave Lord would easily be able to solo a normal 163. Even though there's never really a chance where you are going to be able to get to 163 unless you're going deep into free play, it still is nice to see. So if you enjoyed the video, you know, like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, link is down below in the description. Also, I stream on Twitch sometimes. If you want to see that, that's also in the description.